Alright, here we are. I've set up the Arduino code, so you can see a few things there. This is the name of the file. So where you see these double slashes, that means it's a comment, it's not part of the code. I've set up just a few headers there about this is Midi project VO1, that's the name of the file. This will be in a G drive folder. Basic switch LED control, switch control, terminal array. Okay, this information here is telling me what the array of switch numbers to their LED control terminals and their button control terminals. In the case of the one we're looking at to test for the first time with switch control is number 14, which has a LED control terminal of 49 and a button control terminal of 48. So I've divided this file up into this Arduino sketch file up into some sections. If you're not familiar with Arduino, the first section is making declarations. The second section is void setup, which is something that sets up every time you open the file, and the third part is the void loop, where that's actually a loop, so the code goes in a continuous loop, and any command in that loop will be continuously sent. So void setup happens when you first boot up the first power up or reset the Arduino Mega. This is a continuous environment here. Why some things here are above the void setup and then other things are in the void setup, I'm not entirely sure, but some of this is worked out by trial and error. So some comments at the start. The library. So libraries, you can figure out what they are. They have sets of commands that run in the background, include YH. What this thing does, I don't know, but you've got to do it. So now we're starting to do some declarations of variables. The first thing is integer, integer. This is the syntax. Button pin number 14, that's the name of the variable, equals 48. That means integer, it means you're doing a logic control terminal, what I'm trying to think of, a digital terminal, integer 48. Or it's a terminal, it's a number that refers digitally. Then we're doing integer LED pin 14 is number 49. Remember this table up here, 14 is LED is 49, button is 48. Defining a variable, button delay is 200. That's a variable for the switch bounce delay, we'll get to in a minute. Right. So the next thing is in the void setup, you've then got to say what kind of field button pin 14 is. And we're saying it's a digital input pin mode, that's control terminal 14, or what we've done up here is we've defined that the name or variable name button pin 14 equals control terminal 48. Now we're saying the mode, the pin mode, or the nature of what that control terminal does, i.e. the one that's called button pin 14, is input. When we get to do the pin mode for LED pin 14, which we defined up above as LED pin 14 equals 49, that's output. It's sending 5 volts to the LED, and this one is taking the input from the switch. When it switches to ground, it'll see as input. Alright, now we've defined what kind of what these variables, what these pins do. We're setting the initial pull down resistor. Don't entirely understand this, but it's just saying what the initial state of these variables is going to be. So button pin 14, which we defined as an input, is initially high, which means it will sense that it's gone from high to low when we ground it. Sort of makes sense. And digital write button pin 14 high, that's the syntax. Digital write LED pin 14 low says it's initially low, i.e. off. It's not sending any voltage or close to zero voltage through the wire, and if it was high it would be sending 5 volts. Right, so there's the initial definition again. Then we get into the looping part of the formula. Alright, we've got to the bottom of this file, that's why it's not going any further. Void loop, as it says, put your main code in here. It starts off with this statement. As void setup start off with that statement, and it ends with this curly bracket. You'll get yourself into trouble if you don't know how many curly brackets you have to close off various declarations. The voids have their own declaration, and you'll see down here that if statements have to have opens and closes as well. So looking at this, we're saying void loop.